All right, cool, man. Yes, sir. It's the COD episode 79. We are back trying to have a part two of this discussion that we have had on episodes prior. So if you were tapped in to this podcast, you should see a familiar face. Mr. Matt Brassil sitting down with us again. You the last time you should have heard him was on our Chadwick Boseman Memorial episode. Um, Last time that we had caught up with him, he was working on the set of Fargo. So you should know that that's where his or at least that's where at the time, his credentials were coming from and things like that. But before we get started into this discussion, what are you up to currently?
Not too much. So last summer I worked on Paper Girls, which is the Amazon adaptation of Brian K. Vaughan's 30 issue comic series that he was making intermittently between Saga. And it was one of the craziest summers of my life. I bled, got a tick that I had to pull off, got sunburn, mosquito bites, ran my head into a garage door that was not completely closed, or open rather. So I did some stuff, but I also, out of that, I joined the Directors Guild. So
Nice.
now I am officially a full-time an assistant director.
All right.
And I've been kind of just jumping around from show to show right now. I'm not fully on anything at the moment, but Paper Girls just dropped on Amazon, all 8 episodes.
Tap in.
And I watched the first one and I was very happy with all of it. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, and excited to have people see it and see what people think, and love to get renewed and have another summer of working.
Yeah, that's dope.
I was gonna say I've actually been hearing a lot of good things about it. How people are saying like you guys took the time frame and kind of did a thing with the Stranger Things vibe with it and made sure everything was to that.
Yeah, no, I think it was a really hard thing to be like, we're gonna come out 3 weeks after Stranger Things finishes, and like the comparisons are gonna come.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing I can say for the show and the comic too is that it starts kids on bikes in the 80s and just deviates from there. It's got the sci-fi. It's not even like, they've made the very good decision to like not lean into synth for like the score and stuff.
Yeah, and I noticed that too as well in the first episode. And I was gonna say, how do you guys feel like as directors in this time frame? A lot of series and movies are coming from graphic novels and comic book series, and like it's not really like that source material. Like how is it like utilizing that source material?
It's interesting because something like Paper Girls, which has only existed for a few years, it's not going to have the same kind of zeitgeist following that something like Spider-Man is going to have. So but a lot of times there's this kind of assumption that either that's going to come from somewhere, or it's like kind of utilizing these properties as like a treatment, like this is what it could look like, and you kind of have the bones of what you're going to do and then go from there. And I still remember like when I did a little bit of time in LA and I was interning like development desks for production companies and stuff. When they would talk about comic books, it would always be this whole thing of like, what is too comic book for a movie? And like a great example, like there was this I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was like a spy espionage thing, but it was like a spy. There was a comic book that was about spies, but also had multiple realities, but also had like God narrated parts of the comic. And then like either like the devil or like some like atheistic version of like existed in like there's so much stuff going on, and it's like either you have to like strip that all down or you have to embrace all of it and just go for it. And the go for it versions of stuff are something like, you know, Scott Pilgrim or something like that, where you
Yeah, I was gonna say Scott Pilgrim is like that one movie I feel like is super comic book.
Exactly, and
Like
it's
it has the little punching effects, the sounds,
Exactly.
and everything. And like I actually enjoyed the Scott Pilgrim series. I actually own it in the comic
Yeah.
book form.
Yeah,
And so it's just like it's interesting that you mentioned that. That was
it's one of
definitely
my
the first
favorite
one.
movies, and it's like a
Yeah.
distinct like you know, that was like the summer I went into college, and I was like, all my friends from high school don't want to go see this movie, and then like 6 months later, all my friends who are now still my friends in college were like, oh yeah, we saw Scott Pilgrim and it was great. Like,
I feel like it has
Where
a
were
love
you?
hate
Right.
relationship though. Like it has a love hate relationship with a lot of fans. People like it's horrible, and I'm like, no, this movie actually is really good.
for
Like,
sure, for sure. Yeah.
And speaking about, you know, comic book films and things like that, do you think, you know, the golden years of Marvel or comic book movies in general are behind us? Do you think there's anything still to be had from the genre?
So the analogy that I've been coming into as of late when it comes to like the genre has been kind of comparing it to, or at least Marvel as an entity, is
Right.
looking at it like a sports franchise where, you know, there was a dynasty, and phase 4 is 150% rebuilding. Like we've lost two of our big stars. We're just trying to get back up to that. And you're not gonna sneak in a championship immediately like that. And that's when you're gonna have these weird oddballs. Am I calling Top Gun Maverick the Detroit Pistons of of movie making?
Blue
Maybe,
collar hope, yeah.
maybe, but like that's kind of where we're at right now, where there's kind of this weird in between period. And you know, with the Comic-Con slate, which we can talk about in
The
greater
crazy
detail.
thing when you mentioned that the draft, like the drafting, and they trying to get a new superstar, like they said like when Mashallah Ali like put on his Blade hat that year at the Comic-Con when they announced the Blade movie, they were like, it looks like a draft pick, like he's
It
getting
did, yeah,
drafted
right. Like he did like the whole hat thing and everything. So you know, there's a lot of possibilities you know, coming up and all that. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I just feel like it is a rebuilding phase, and like that's fine. And we're getting some new people. But you know, it's been interesting to see these last couple of movies because the quality has kind of it's just been varied. And I'm in the somewhat minority that I think like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is like a perfect movie. Maybe like it's just like the best ding time you could have at a movie. Like maybe I need to contextualize the fact that I saw it like at an art house theater,
All right, all right.
and it was
I was gonna say,
and it felt like going to see Army of Darkness. It felt like going to see another Sam Raimi movie that just happened to be Doctor Strange. And I loved that about it. And I know that like a lot of people got annoyed with, okay, we put the Illuminati in, we don't really know who they all are, what that all is, and then what happens. But I was like, no, this is great. Throw this in and just go mayhem. And then when maybe you want to come back around and do like an earnest version of that, it's known and you're gonna remember it because of that weird freaking thing that happened in Doctor Strange.
Right. At Doctor Strange got mixed reviews, and then I've been asking people because I haven't seen Thor yet, and I'm gonna go see it. I'm gonna go see it in theaters. But you know, before I saw Doctor Strange, everybody was slamming it, and I loved it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was absolutely like hooting and hollering movie where you're just like, you know, right from the jump, like this is gonna be like that kind of movie, notably a Sam Raimi movie. I've seen versions of the reviews where it's like the first half is very much like a Marvel movie, and then the second half is when Sam Raimi gets to do his stuff. I'm like, it is all there the whole time. And that's what I really liked about it. Is it the most impactful, important movie out of all of them? Absolutely not. You know, that's obviously between the Avengers movies and then Black Panther. Like those are going to be the bigger, important movies. But to me, there's nothing about Doctor Strange that's like compromising. Like Black Panther, for as great of a film as it is, still has a 15-minute sequence where Chadwick and Michael B. Jordan are not there fighting in those suits on that train. Like they're just not. and you know that, and we all like and we just have to accept that, and it's rough that's like a thing that it had to do in order to be a movie, even though it wasn't necessary. So in my opinion,
building on that, I do want to ask your thoughts on Marvel and these the discussion with these CGI companies where they're saying that they were overworked, or on certain films that they had to resort to using like a PlayStation 2 generator or something like that. Some of these horror stories where they're pushing them to the bone. Like, kind of, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's really tough because it's not as established of a facet of the industry as everything else is. So what you get out of that is no one really knows how to do it in terms of like how to manage it. So everyone's kind of trying different ways. And then, one person creates this deadline that's unrealistic for something lesser, then they apply it off of whether it's an algorithm or whatever, but like you're just assuming that it's all going to be the same. And, I know not everyone's seen Thor: Love and Thunder, but, compared to Doctor Strange, there is a huge difference in terms of how much VFX is involved. And, between the fact that there's variants of how things are going to be. And I've heard some people say that Doctor Strange doesn't look very good. I thought it looked great. I never really had any issues with any of the CGI, but the issue with like with Thor: Love and Thunder is that you feel like every like natural component looks bad because of the CGI. Like a lot of times I hear people say like a lot of like the costumes and stuff look very like almost like a school play. And I feel like Ragnarok was similar, but Ragnarok just had a better integration of things, so you couldn't really notice as much. So I mean, I'm hopeful that like I don't really know what the state is of like unions within VFX production houses and stuff, but as that gets like more organized and codified, that's going to be the thing that's going to make the difference. It's got to be about setting hours and making deadlines realistic and all that sort of stuff, so that element of things is all work, because it is so easy to slip from one thing to the next. I mean, I've worked on shows where just for example, like working with minors, like I've worked on shows where maybe somebody says, hey, they're only supposed to work 8 hours today, but if we get this shot, we'll be
pushing 9 or 10,
and it becomes like, it's just like, but I've, but the thing is, those rules are so important and they're integral. And that's like why, like, you have to set those standards, because if you don't set those standards, then you're going to, have problems. So
because I actually heard rumors that they did a lot of the shots for the up and coming Black Panther underwater scenes differently than the way DC did Aquaman, to an aesthetic, just to give themselves like a challenge, but also just to do differentiate the characters a little bit. And so I'm just like I'm interested in see how that's going to look, because I'm like I've never.
I mean, even just with the trailer, you just see something that's very naturalistic and really works very well. Like there's a glossiness to Aquaman that works for Aquaman, because exactly, it is all glossy. But I mean, there's just that quick shot of what I assume is Namor's like birth. That just looks perfect. It looks so wonderful. Looks so natural.
It gave me Avatar vibes, actually.
Totally. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, we know how much time and money goes into Avatar. I mean,
right.
Exactly.
Now, with the mixed reviews of both Doctor Strange and Thor, both of them still had huge box office numbers. So I guess putting it all in context, is there really a fatigue, or is it something where Marvel had just been hitting it out of the park and we were kind of I guess used to a certain level, I guess, from them, that now with these mixed reviews, it's maybe sending kind of a shock, or maybe an unnecessary shock to people, and that's why we're hearing about this fatigue?
Well, it's a couple of things, because the one element of it is the unknown, which is how many people watch the Disney Plus shows, and to what like rapid, like how quickly they watch the new episode, all that sort of stuff. the big thing, and I think this is cool a little bit, is that I feel like spoiler culture in general has made us all feel like we have to knock out the Marvel thing before anything else. You know, I've definitely been like 7 episodes behind on a show that I'm like currently watching, and then like, oh no, like the new Moon Knight is out. I need to knock out that, because if this is the episode where Magneto shows up, I'm gonna be and now I've just like I just know better. Like, I think that we all kind of went through that whole thing with WandaVision, and now it's kind of like, you know, it's probably not going to be that. That said, I mean, Loki and the way Loki ended, so I'm not 100%.
Yeah, Loki was really amazing.
But I don't think that's gonna happen. So there's that element as one. The other thing is that yes, it's still doing well at the box office, but there is always, at least with, I'm sorry, not always, but with these 2 movies, Doctor Strange and Thor, a massive dip from week 1 to week 2. It's a huge, like, it's like 60%, which is pretty dramatic for these movies that are supposed to like kind of rule a whole month. And that's why, I mean, in addition to Top Gun Maverick being a great movie, like, it is just eclipsed it because it's like a great word of mouth movie. It's, I want to see it twice, not, okay, I saw it, the spoilers are good, I know what happened, move on. And then the other part of that is that there is just so much less stuff that came out this summer. You know, it, like last weekend, the biggest movie that came out, the number 1 movie was Super Pets, which, sure, it's The Rock and Kevin Hart, but like,
Of course,
there wasn't even like a counter to that. It was
But
the
originally wasn't Black Panther supposed to come out this month?
I think in some, so I know this past weekend was supposed to be the weekend Black Adam was supposed to come out.
Right.
Which I gotta just say, one of the most amazing things that I saw this year was The Rock hopping on Instagram and being like, hey, just want to let you know, now Super Pets is coming out in July and Black Adam is coming out in October. And I was like, cool.
right.
There's a whole marketing department for this, but cool. But I'm not sure. It's the dates change so much, and the dates are not identified so often that I always forget. So it's 100% possible that this could have been the weekend for Black Panther at some point, but I think that the November date has been in effect at least since the month before Doctor Strange, if not sooner. Because I know that actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I know Doctor Strange had to get adjusted because of the reshoots that had to adjust that it came out after Spider-Man. So originally Doctor Strange was going to come first, then Spider-Man. But the thing is, because of Sony saying, hey, this is when we're releasing our movie, deal with it.
Yeah.
That's when Doctor Strange had to make its adjustment. So that was kind of the fallout from that, which we've now basically caught up to, and everything seems pretty much set in stone, barring like a significant, knock on wood, outbreak of a new variant, COVID wise, or Kang, that may occur. So yeah, that, and it's wild to, I personally think that like November is a great time for a Black Panther movie. I think that's like a good time of year. Like, it feels like it'll be in a good company with like Avatar, and I mean, I'm looking forward to Shazam. I'm not a big DC guy. I don't remember if we've really talked about that, but like, I'm definitely much more bent on Marvel. But I really enjoyed the first Shazam movie, and I'm looking forward to the second one. Less so Black Adam, even though I know that they're connected, but that'll be good, like, good stuff to go see with the family and all that sort of stuff. And I think that'll all be pretty successful because of that.
Right. Now, when you mentioned Magneto earlier, I started thinking, do you think an introduction of X-Men or, even a Fantastic Four can kind of be what MCU needs to kind of have a fresh story?
So
Fantastic Four is announced. They announced
okay.
that.
Yeah. And it sounds like we're going to know who the cast is at D23, which is kind of like Disney's own version of Comic-Con, where they just celebrate Disney stuff. So we'll know who's directing that. We'll know who that cast is. And I think that it's what my guess and understanding would be, that like that Fantastic Four will come from a different universe. Because at this point, like, there's just like too much has happened where they can't be there. And then the same thing with the X-Men. And I think the X-Men will show up via Secret Wars, and that'll be like, okay, now we have them. Now let's go do X-Men movies. That said, the slate gets progressively lighter from year to year, moving up into Secret Wars. So right now, 2026 or 2025, I can't remember which one it is just those two Avengers movies. No, I'm sorry, that's 2025. Are just as two Avengers movies. And for me, that feels like maybe there's going to be something else in there that we don't know about yet that will probably be discussed at D23. But to me, like the whole, like I am definitely a Marvel fan, but I am within that like X-Men, huge X-Men fan. That's like my big conversion within COVID was like, now I'm going to go back and read old comics. Now I'm reading like all the current titles. We are in like a golden age of X-Men comics right now. Like it's incredible right now what they're doing. And I think that there's a lot of great possibilities for X-Men in general because of what they're doing right now. And they can figure out ways to make it where it's like, I think we're going to be moving towards some better version of Avengers versus X-Men.
That'll be amazing.
That's not the Avengers versus X-Men that we had, which is one of the worst comics I've ever read.
But we get that in live action. Ooh.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, if they can get it to work, there's certainly a lot of possibilities, but I think that it's
because I feel like right now what I came to the conclusion of is just like right now we seem to be like a filler arc right now for Marvel movies in a sense where it's just like we're getting a little bit of storyline here and there, but nothing pretty much is progressing that story along. But we'll get back to it once Ant-Man and the Quantum Realm, that movie, and then which is so crazy. I remember Kevin was saying that the Fantastic Four movie wouldn't actually be an origin movie, so that's going to be interesting to see how they do that off of that idea.
Yeah, that'll be. I mean, at least it's a very straightforward. Like they went to space and they came back with powers, so it's like
you don't need to see that 1,000 times.
That's why I like Multiverse of Madness, man, because it was like all right, Doctor Strange, but then it was like Professor X, and it was like Fantastic Four, and I was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, but so I think that's going to be. I think that'll work pretty seamlessly. I mean, the whole like just people coming from different. I mean, it's going to be like No Way Home. We're just like.
Do you think we'll get a Young Avengers though, based off?
So this is the big thing for me because not only am I just interested in what they're going to happen, like I have like Young Avengers was my way into comics. I picked up Young Avengers 1 in 2005, had no idea what anything was, and that's like how I got into all of that. And there's with the slate that they have, there's a lot of possibilities for like they're going to put together some sort of Young Avengers team, and we've basically established almost everyone at this point between Kate Bishop, Miss Marvel, technically Wanda's children. I don't know if they're going to.
Yeah, and then the Nova movie as well, supposedly in works, or a series of what I know that there was a Nova movie or something of that in works.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm curious to like when and where that would all fit in because I mean it's kind of like Guardians where it's like he kind of exists elsewhere. When is it going to get incorporated? But I feel like I don't know if we're going to actually full on do a young Avengers movie, but I feel like there's a strong possibility that like Kang Dynasty is mostly Young Avengers. But I don't know. It's hard to tell. Like I definitely agree with the idea that there's not quite a lead right now in the MCU. Like the argument could be made for Spider-Man, but because of the whole Sony thing, it's hard for them to kind of fully commit to that. It sounds like Tom Holland's like really thinking about doing other stuff. For me personally, if it was up to me, I would put Ms. Marvel at the center because of how Ms. Marvel ends, as well as the fact that she's just the most charismatic.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that she actually seems like she could be the face of. Totally. She could be the Robert Downey Jr. of this generation for the MCU. And I got that after watching the entire series. I was like, okay, I really like her. Like she has this like her personality, the way she interacts with fans, you know, and even watching her on like the carpet, red carpets, and it's just like,
yeah,
she could be the one, you know, like she could be the one that could lead them into this new generation if they back her up, you know.
totally. Oh, absolutely. And so I'm interested to see if that's where things end up. She just has like such a good energy and all that sort of stuff. And to continue on my point, like I am definitely fatigued by the idea that there has been stuff in the last 3 years that has been, or 2 years rather, that has not been very good, or like I don't remember very well. Like Shang-Chi is an example of, I loved the first hour. I adore the first hour. It's amazing. And then there's a scene happens, and then it completely takes its foot off the gas, and I'm like bored. Like I'm literally.
I think the actual director for that movie is actually going to be doing King Dynasty.
That was
announced. And so that's going to be interesting, given the fact I feel like a lot of people do feel the same way you feel about Shang-Chi. The fight scenes were amazing. That's what everybody says, you know, that, and so that's what we're hoping that he can incorporate into that King Dynasty movie. But it was just like the storyline, and so I'm like, that's interesting that you mentioned that as well. You know, a lot of people feel that way.
There's a lot of great stuff in Shang-Chi that I really liked. It's just not quite there. But you know, I think that again, there's a lot of everything's gotten possibilities, even Eternals, and Thor Love and Thunder did just not sat well with me for the last week or so. I've like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, didn't quite work. There's still elements that are there at play, and that's not new for Marvel. I mean, when you look at kind of that phase 2 time where it was like, okay, yeah, like Winter Soldier is great, Guardians is great, but you know, Dark Worlds, is this all working?
Dark World was
and then all it was like, we just take the ether from the ether from this, and that's it. That's all that needed to be taken from that. Move on, no big deal.
It really wasn't anything.
So
you think, I was going to ask, do you think Feige is at fault for, you know, the disconnect that some people had felt with phase 4, and then seeing how phase 4, I guess they announced the end of it, which seemed a little bit, it seemed like, I guess compared to phase 3, this is a very, very short phase that was kind of wrapped up quickly. But we know that Feige kind of like took a back seat on phase 4, less hands-on. Do you think anything there?
Well, I think that the elephant in the room is like COVID.
Right.
I'm sure stuff changed. I think a lot about like the way the conversation kind of changed with The Dark Knight Rises after Heath Ledger died, where it was just like, there was very clearly like Nolan's idea of how that next movie was going to be 150% involved the Joker in some way. It was just very clear. And so he pivoted, made a pretty good movie out of all of it, but it's just not as successful. I think the other thing is that there's been a lot within this very short period of time. I mean, we've now probably, I wouldn't be surprised if now Wanda has passed everybody else in the MCU in terms of screen time. Like, she's got to have first or second and all of that, because she's just been in so much. And that's kind of the weird thing you get out of these Disney Plus shows, is just more and more time with these other characters. And you know, that's kind of a mental adjustment of like, okay, well, now who's important, because these guys are in the movies, but I'm spending more time with that person, so what am I really connected to? And I don't think we've seen the last of Wanda, because I feel like because of that, she's become like this kind of massive fan favorite. Now that we all know Elizabeth Olsen is a great actress, which she's been always been, but now we all kind of know that, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I think that, I don't know what the exact extent of his backseat really was, but it seems like it's just kind of the timing of it all. And how do you, like, you don't, it's to me, you don't come back and you make another Endgame 2 years later. You just don't. So there's a regrouping there that you have to kind of be patient with. And I think we all drove ourselves insane with stuff like WandaVision, where we're just like, this is like, they're gonna just fucking put the X-Men in and we're gonna all, full steam ahead.
Right.
It's not gonna be that seamless and that quick.
Right. And
But,
comparing,
I mean,
all right,
I
go
feel
ahead.
like I was gonna say, but they're kind of going back to the Netflix fans, with giving us the new Daredevil series. They announced the Punisher series as well, so it's just like, like they're keeping us to what kind of brought us to let's go tune into these Marvel TV shows and go watch these Marvel movies. So they're kind of getting back to that, original, excitement, because honestly, like the Daredevil and the Punisher series were like my bread and butter for like the first couple years of it's not even connected, but like for Marvel movies, like I would put that over Iron Man and those movies and just the series itself.
Or even for me, like Morbius didn't really get good reviews and everybody kind of shat on it, right? But I kind of like to see him set up the Sinister Six.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of possibilities with all that. I think the cool thing, and I think a lot of people are getting frustrated about this, is, and I don't know if it's completely founded, is the idea that like now the movies are kind of like the way the comic books are, where there are 30, 40 titles that come out right now, and you don't have to read all of them. Right. You have to know what's going on, but you read what you read and you watch what you enjoy, and that's what works. And so, there's going to be situations where, I'm at a completionist and I'm going to give everything a shot. But like, what's my wife going to want to watch? My wife's going to want to watch Daredevil Born Again more than she's going to want to watch, Moon Knight, because Moon Knight's too about Egyptian gods, which honestly, not to be like hashtag not my Moon Knight, but I my version of Moon Knight is like the Jeff Lemire version, which is like a lot closer to like Legion, the TV show, than it is what we got, which we kind of got a little bit of that in Moon Knight, but we didn't quite do. Like, it's more about the multiple personalities and all of that than it is
the God side of everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I kind of saw that, and I kind of got that as well, because I'm like, we didn't introduce Jake Lockley till the end, and it was just like we kind of like knew he was there, and we're like, okay, are they going to talk about him? Or are we going to see him? And we don't see him till the end of the series. Yeah, and it's just like, okay, what are we doing with this now?
For sure. And they've completely changed the way all of his alters are as characters, which is fine. Like I to me, I'm not like Mark Spector has to be a certain way and Stephen Grant has to be a certain way, but Stephen Grant is the like movie star version of him. Like, he's like the cool classic Hollywood dude version of him. So to see him be this like timid dude at a museum was kind of a surprise. And the same thing with Loki. It's just like, that's not really how that character is in the comics, but like it doesn't have to be, because it's still kind of the same principal idea of him having just
because I kind of feel like they fused what Jake's actual personality was into kind of Mark Spector's personality. Yeah, which was interesting. I was just like, is this Jake or is this Mark really? It was like that, but I'm like, they established that at the end, but it was like, it was definitely interesting to see like how they meshed those personalities to bring in one character.
For sure.
They went borderline Fight Club. I know.
A little bit.
They kind of did, yeah. I kind of wish they would have went more Fight Club, like if it was like honestly like them fighting each other and beating each other's asses within his mind. Like I would have enjoyed watching that.
Yeah, would have been interesting.
Like I would have watched that, because I'm like, me personally, I feel like Moon Knight is one of those characters that's kind of close to Daredevil, where it's like it's just him beating a lot of people asses, like, and him acting crazy as fuck within himself, So it's just like
and just like never having to really connect with anything else, which I mean, they didn't. I you guys were talking about it on the pod earlier, and I completely agree. I am still like shocked that the God Butcher thing didn't, was not a thing that happened in Moon Knight. Like, I mean, just walking it back that way, it kind of felt like that was all right there, but they just stepped away from it, which is fine, because that's kind of how Moon Knight always is. It kind of always operates in its own corner. Every now and then it'll hop in and it'll work sometimes, not always. Depends on who's writing it, really.
Right. And speaking on these series, and Gordo, you had mentioned was it the Punisher earlier and things like that. Do you think with the, I guess, introduction of some of these darker comic book stories, such as like The Boys or Invincible, do you think the introduction of those kind of affect how we're viewing the MCU right now, as far as those might be more traditional rosy tales rather than here's a stark look at a quote unquote hero, but we're seeing all their flaws. We're seeing them curse and maybe they have addictions or something like that. But
Yeah.
we're not seeing the typical hero, I guess, tropes from those type of stories. Does that affect anything with MCU and how they're choosing to move forward with storytelling?
I don't think they're gonna ever pivot into like, we're now gonna make a gritty thing. Like, I think that they're
Right.
always gonna have the bright colors. They'll have the jokes. That's gonna always be their thing to some respect. Because even I don't know what we're considering the darkest thing that Marvel's made so far, but even Moon Knight, which could be considered somewhat dark, has still got like,
Some humor in it.
Yeah, I laughed some moments. Yeah.
Even Grant hearing the word Avatar and being like, "Oh yes, the blue people." Oh wait, no, you mean the anime, and it's like, we all get it. Like,
Right.
thank you for all of that. But I think that that's always going to be there. I mean, Marvel's never adjusted itself based on what else is going on as a comic book company, because in the mid aughts we had Vertigo, which was like the big thing, which is good to be talking about a few days before Sandman drops. But like, those were okay. You like comic books, but you want something a little bit more serious regularly. Well, here's comic books that aren't about superheroes, and they're going to be dark, and they're going to be about all this other stuff, and you should read this instead. And that was a great alternative. And that was honestly, so in terms of my comic book journey, if you will, I at a certain point, I just like, there were like 4 Avengers titles out. I was reading all of them. Brian Michael Bendis was writing all of them, and I was so exhausted, and then like none of it made any sense, or I never really understood where everyone was. There was kind of a vibe coming out of Civil War that like there was like Avenger, like the Red State Avengers was kind of sort of a thing with the Mighty Avengers, where it was like, oh, we have it's Iron Man and it's Ares, the god of war, and I'm like, this is kind of weird. And I steered away from all that, and I read only Vertigo for about like probably like 7 years. And I came back around to things with Marvel kind of around 2015 or so. And it was only really because like the stuff I was reading in Vertigo ended. Vertigo is no longer a thing. It's there's some versions of it that come back within DC, but it's not really a thing anymore. So, there's always going to be the alternatives. It's kind of just genres within genres now,
Right.
when it comes to comic book stuff. And unfortunately, none of the big non-superhero stuff out of comic book adaptations has not really been like greatly successful. Even like the tangential things like a Constantine haven't broken through in the same way that they felt like they broke through within in the comic book world, where you're like, oh my god, Hellblazer is like the best comic out there. And that's people would definitely make that argument. So it's always going to be there. It's always going to be in conversation with one another. But
now one title, yeah. No, I was gonna say one title I do hope breaks through soon is Doctor Doom. Now, if they do decide to make that, do you have any, I guess, casting ideas for who you'd want to see kind of step into that role?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because it's at this point it's got to be that age. It's going to be somebody we know. So many people have been already cast in the MCU in some respect or another, where you lose people like, not that I'm suggesting this, but also not saying this would be a bad idea. Like Glenn Close is off the board because she was in Guardians for 5 minutes, and you can't make her Doctor Doom, though I would see the hell out of that movie.
Right.
But like, so that limits your possibilities. the Jason Isaacs gets thrown around a lot for a lot of things between Doctor Doom and Magneto, and I think that there's good arguments for both of those. I recently saw Cillian Murphy thrown around for Doctor Doom though, and I am not mad at that idea at all. I think that's a great thought. One of my big things this year was I've watched all of Peaky Blinders except for the new season, but I've watched the first 5 seasons and I'm just like, this is so freaking good.
I'm knee deep.
It reminds me of I don't know if you guys ever watched You're the Worst, but there's the Aya Cash character manages this rapper Sam, and the two guys in his group. He like manages their like TiVo and stuff, and he's like, "You took out everything but Peaky Blinders. Like, you just got to watch it. You'll understand when you watch it."
Yeah.
And now, like 7 years later, I finally caught up, and I'm like,
"Have you ever seen Boardwalk Empire?"
You know, it wasn't a Boardwalk guy, but I don't know. It's always hard with this, like that stuff.
That's what Peaky Blinders. Hold on, but it's the same kind of thing. Once you get into it, you're knee deep in it. You know what I mean? But you have to start it though.
I totally believe it.
You got to start it.
Oh gosh, the last thing I need is more legacy shows that I have to go back and watch. I mean, but still gotta watch The Sopranos. Still gotta watch The Wire.
I was just about to say,
if you get on TV shows, something that like brings back nostalgia for me, but it's like new, Primal. It's on Adult Swim.
Yeah. I watched the first 3 of that. It's really good. I just never finished it, but I like.
Yeah, it reminds me of Samurai Jack. Definitely. Yeah. It definitely has that vibe, you know. And I love animation, so that's one of my things to just sit there and watch. And it's crazy that it's pretty much no talking, just noises, sounds, and scores. You know,
that's what he does best. He's Tarkovsky's got this great visual style, and it's just, doesn't have to be dialogue reliant. And I mean, that was one of my favorite things of the last what are we going on, like 7 years now? That Samurai Jack extra season was like so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely was needed.
Yeah, it was perfect closure, perfect everything. It just wonderfully.
Now go on.
No, it's all good. I was gonna say, speaking of,
I was gonna say, and to go back to go back to what we were talking about, the actual face of the MCU, given the fact that Jonathan Majors is actually going to be in a lot of these up and coming, series and movies. He actually could be the new face, because think about it, he's actually going to be playing different variations of the same character, but it's going to be it's going to be interesting to see, which is like, is he the new Iron Man?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much
how
much you guys know about Young Avengers, but 17-year-old spoiler for you guys. The end of issue 1 is Iron Lad.
Iron Lad.
Young Avengers revealing that he's Kang.
Variation of Kang. Yeah.
Okay. See,
and
this is kind of yeah.
And then I was gonna say, even then, they just I was reading. I can't remember what the run. I think it was like the 2017 run with Michael Del Mundo doing mostly the artwork for the Avengers series. Mm-hmm. But it's like in that when they kidnapped baby Kang to try to kill him from growing up, and then they realized that Doctor Doom eventually is a variation of Kang within that same alternate timeline. And I'm just like, the way they're going with it, the Kang situation is definitely an interesting take. Just how the variations of him that end up in the Avengers, Fantastic Four villain, and then his ultimate version self, and then he remains. It's crazy. He's pretty much all throughout this. I guess he will be actually the face of this.
Yeah, I mean, he could conceivably have 10 parts.
Yeah.
And will we see Kang in Ant-Man 3 or Loki season 2?
I think for sure, probably both. I mean, Ant-Man we know for sure. Kang, I would imagine, based on how Loki ends, I would imagine he would be in Loki too. It'll be interesting. I'm curious if they'll do a younger version of Jonathan Majors and who that would be. Because Jonathan Majors is not that old, so it's not, you can't call it too. I mean, he would be a teenager effectively. So I don't know. I don't know who's the next on that one.
Hey, Johnny Depp, Von Doom.
Johnny Depp.
No, man. I was just
That would be the most weirdest.
Hey, he a free agent, man. That's
You know,
all I'm saying.
And
I mean, it's still Disney though, so he technically he still went. You know, he technically said he'd never work for Disney again. So.
Well, you know, Johnny Depp to Ezra Miller to the latest news that we got today, which I don't know if any of you guys have seen it yet, but Batgirl, which is a movie that is shot and in post-production, they are not releasing it
Out of here.
At all. Not
Is
even
it going to be
Max.
is it going to be repurposed? Because apparently it was $100 million pumped into this.
Just shelved.
Interesting.
They tweaking them. Like I say, like they're missing their opportunity.
Yeah, I read something today I read something in the aftermath of it that was like basically along the lines of Batgirl was shot for like 70 million, and apparently what Warner Bros. Is going for is movies that are or look like they're 90 million plus. And something out of all of that didn't look good enough, which is wild to me because they were going to just release this on HBO Max anyway. Right. So I don't understand what the loss is.
Right.
And it's a real shame for everyone involved who went and made this movie. You know,
Michael Keaton was in it, right?
I think so. I think there was at least were rumors, if not confirmation, that was the case. But I mean, that's no good. Like that would have been a great thing to throw out there. I think though that DC is in major flux beyond the obvious, which is the Ezra Miller of it all, beyond the fact that they've had such a hard time.
I think it's the Ezra Miller situation, honestly, because it's just like, think about it. The Flashpoint was a really important movie.
Yeah.
Like it was pivotal to like everything that was going on with the Justice League, Batman. Like it was so pivotal. Like, and for him to be out here wilding the way he is, and they just can't figure out what to do.
Yeah.
Like I would be like, honestly, like I wouldn't even know what to do anyway. Cause like I'm thinking like they have Blue Beetle in the works too. And I'm just like, that's going to be a lot of CGI in actuality to bring that suit up to life. So I'm just like, 90 million plus, like, is that going to get scrapped? Like,
or is it going to be something like the Disney Plus shows where it's going to come out, but it's going to not look fully finished the way that we would like it to be? I mean, that was probably my number one issue with Moon Knight was I was just like, that is a semi truck, and the license plate is completely flush with the entire semi truck. That's not what semi trucks look like. That is very simply not what that is. That needs another week tops to get that looking the way it's supposed to look. So I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I think that the fact that the Flash is ending, the Flash, the TV show is ending.
Yeah, the CW series,
which means that there will be no superhero shows on the CW after next year. It doesn't.
Wait, Lois and Superman?
Oh gosh, you know what? I always forget about that one. I'm sorry. I knew there was one.
I'm like, the only reason why I remember it is because the guy that plays Superman was in Teen Wolf, and you know, I was kind of like a big Teen Wolf fan for some reason. I don't know why. I guess because it was like the end of high school, and there was nothing else
got its fans. It's good.
Yeah, and so they just announced like they're bringing doing a Teen Wolf movie. But yeah, I know Lois and Superman. I think it's the last thing left because all the other things were canceled.
And like even Riverdale's ending, which I know is comics.
Well,
it is.
We're happy that's ending. Honestly.
Shout out Archie.
Because like honestly, like I started Riverdale and I was like, all right, this is dope. Like they're doing the dark version of the Archie comics. Then like they got superpowers, and then there was the Sabrina. Like they wanted to be the Sabrina thing, and I'm just like, I'm over it now. Like thank God.
Yeah. I mean, they saturated, and then they were just like, we have saturated, and let's pull back. And it's. I mean, I know I stopped watching the CW related stuff about a few years back just because it was just too much, and there's just so much stuff out there. But just with 22 episode seasons and stuff like that. But it's definitely a transition point. So we'll see what happens. We'll see. I'm very just genuinely intrigued what the CW is going to look like in 5 years. Just even if I'm not watching any of the shows, I'm just like curious what's going to be the main thing.
Yeah, they had it. Yeah, I was gonna say CW actually had a bag at one point for 100, the originals. Yeah, the Flash, Black Lightning at one point. They did.
I was watching all of those probably at the same time.
And even to mention like the Black Lightning series, and like the piggy off of that, I was actually watching the Milestones comics documentary that came out on HBO Max.
Yes, I saw this the other day.
Yeah, it was actually dope just to see, that like to have them talk about, them creating the characters and how that storyline all came back, and just them talking about Dwayne McDuffie, RP. So it's just like actually interesting because a lot of them actually were working for DC and Marvel when they were during the creation of these characters.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting at this point that DC would choose to scrap such a big investment because last episode, or at least the last time that we were speaking on Marvel, we Gordo and I, we did acknowledge that this is a period where DC can step in and almost elevate if they wanted to. Now with just the public conversation and maybe some disappointment in Phase 4, and with the good I guess good reviews and good energy that they had received from recent films like The Batman and things like that. Is this the correct move? I mean, they could have, like you said, put this out on HBO Max and kind of garnered some momentum to maybe somewhere, honestly, like, we were talking about maybe a Static Shock or something that they could introduce, but it does seem like this is the time that DC should be thinking of striking or at least putting some more IP out rather than taking the IP back.
Yeah, they say I just feel like they're pulling back. It feels like Shazam and Black Adam are like they know that they're
banking on. Yeah,
and I mean, an Aquaman too, I think will be. They don't really have too much to worry about in that department.
What is Aquaman 2 gonna be about?
I think that's March next year. I want to say. I think it was like March next year, and then the Flash is supposed to be June next year. Will that ever happen? Who the heck knows? But that's kind of where.
I gotta ask, man. Black Adam, you kind of grimaced a couple of times. What's going on? What don't you like about it?
It's such a curious property for me because The Rock called his shot on this one like 9 years ago, and like The Rock is great, but he's not James Cameron where he's gonna work on something for 10 years and then like it's gonna have this great thing or whatever. Like it's cool that he picked this character of all characters. But it's one of those where it's not quite enough. I think it's a little bit Superman, it's a little bit this, a little bit that, and just nothing about it really excites me too much. Like other than the concept of like this stage we're at with Pierce Brosnan, where he's like the old, like he's kind of doing what Connery did in like the late 80s and early 90s, where he's just like the old lion and just like killing it. There's nothing about it that really excites me all that much. And
I mean, I honestly want to see Hawkman, the fight scene with Hawkman. That's probably the biggest thing that I want to see. And then, I don't know. That is interesting. Yeah, you got kind of because I'm like, when I think about it, like, are they gonna connect Shazam and Black Adam?
Conceivable. I mean, they're like each other, like they're enemies. Like that would be the thing that would make sense, but I honestly don't know.
Yeah, because it kind of made sense. Like honestly, now think about it, the movie should have been connected. Honestly,
because Black Adam seems more like serious, right? It's more like
Shazam is more goofy.
Shazam's gonna be funny as hell, you know it.
Yeah,
and it's like, man, if you connect those two movies, you might as well throw Kevin Hart in there,
They might.
Hey, maybe that could be a
They might.
Shazam 3, Black Adam 2 is gonna be.
Yeah.
Oh no, like that's
all set in Kevin Hart's house.
Hey, but who wouldn't go see that though?
I mean.
I would go see it honestly, just because it's just who the fuck is Kevin Hart gonna play, like, and that's just
I mean, they're just gonna slide him in there like Black Adam's little brother or something. I don't know.
Oh God! I've got this image in my head of Kevin Hart playing John Stewart Green Lantern, and I can't get it out. Get it out.
That would be fucking hilarious. And he say this, and he do the little fade cut version, not the bald version.
You've been fan casting Idris Elba in this part for 10 years. Guess what? Kevin Hart.
They would have to figure out how to make him look taller though.
I'm sure they could do that.
That would be the only thing that they would have to figure out is how to make him look taller.
Now you spoke on James Cameron taking 10 years. Are you excited for this Avatar 2?
You know, absolutely. Like, I don't know why that's the negative opinion now, but like, I mean, I realize
what's the gimmick this time? You know, they had 3D last time, the new technology.
I mean, I think the 3D fad that was caused by Avatar was not as it's like everything with James Cameron. He will do something, it's great, and then everyone will repeat it, and it's just never the same thing. The same thing with VFX in T2, the same thing with, you know, I mean, can't really think of a boat movie that came out after Titanic, but like there's no movie that is like Titanic. Right. He just always does that, and that's what makes him, you know, big Jim Cameron. But like, going to see the Avatar in theaters was an amazing movie going experience that I had in 2009. Yeah. And whether or not the story is as strong as it should be or as close to Fern Gully as it should be, it is still a good movie that I enjoyed watching. And like, you know, that was a lockdown movie that I showed to my wife for the first time, and she adored it. You know, like, so there's something to it. Maybe if it doesn't have like the you want to watch it 5 times over thing, that
it's too long to watch 5 times over.
Yeah,
and were there including
maybe 3
water effects as well, as a lot of movies are including water effects. Yeah. So maybe he's got some, you know, revolutionary.
Yeah,
maybe he got his own personal visual effects team just sitting in the corner somewhere, you know, like, and he actually treats them well, you know.
Yeah,
he's gonna change the game again.
If I've learned one thing, is that you just don't have preconceived notions. Just, you know, give it a shot. This is the first time he's done. I think it's the first time he's done a direct sequel, or so the second time he's done a direct sequel to his own movie. The last time he did that was T2, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's gonna be great. So,
I'm not mad at it. Well, to try to close out this part 2 of this discussion, and seeing that phase 4 has been officially closed and they started announcing what's going to happen in the phase 5 of the MCU, are we optimistic? Do we think Marvel can turn this around? Is this just growing pains that everybody goes through? Kind of what's the closing thoughts and the outlook on this next phase of Marvel?
For me, I have a huge issue where I will just get myself excited about this stuff. The next thing always, like, and right now the next thing is She-Hulk, which does not look that great from a effect standpoint.
I hate the fucking Hulk.
I mean, that's fair.
The Hulk was doing yoga,
like,
in one of the.
I like the Incredible. Though don't get me wrong, I like the Incredible Hulk movie, but I hate Mark Rufio, however you say his name.
You're right the first time, but I love the variations.
I hate his fucking Hulk. Like, his Hulk is the most.
Sure.
I hate it.
Yeah.
Like, the Hulk is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
But the fact that they can't give him a good movie, and no, they gave him a good movie with. I mean, and the Incredible Hulk movie was decent. Don't get me wrong. The Abomination, that fight scene was amazing.
Yeah.
But the fucking shit they did to him in the MCU was just so fucking disrespectful.
Yeah, it's such a weird one. I feel like it was a lot less talked about, but like, the Hulk was definitely a Spider-Man-esque situation where they like didn't quite have the rights back, and that's why there's never been a Hulk movie. So he's been in the movies, but he's not been his own movie, and so they kind of had to dance around that whole figure of things. I forget when the rights fully reverted back, or if they even have. But it's definitely shortchanged that character, which I was like one of the first things I ever read was back issues of Hulk, not good back issues of Hulk, but back issues of Hulk, and it's strange to see that this is like kind of that this is the Hulk we got, but I think that there's possibilities with She-Hulk. I think it'll be enjoyable. I think if maybe you go like this is just be fun,
Right.
it's not.
Yeah, it went down the hill since Ragnarok.
If they if everything lines up where they get Battle World and the A-Team and all that shit, then I can see her, being who she is and her coming into like power and whatever.
Yeah.
That is what this series. I feel like that's what the series will be about. Her, accepting I'm green and big and a woman, and all that stuff.
Sure.
And so, but it's just like I don't know. I just feel like like you say, it doesn't really look good. The CGI looks bad,
Sure.
And it's just like another series that was COVID related.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm incredibly optimistic about Wakanda Forever. I think it looks dope.
Yeah.
If it's a movie that looks good by itself and it's good by itself, and maybe it doesn't continue on in any significant way in terms of it doesn't show us something for future movies quite yet, that's like fine with me. If it's just like here's a direct sequel to the original Black Panther, that's great too.
Previews gave me goosebumps.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I know Kaluuya is not in that movie.
Yeah.
But did you see Nope?
Yes, I did see Nope. And
what did you think?
I freaking loved Nope.
All right.
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I would love to see it again, for sure. But there's a lot going on in that movie, and
without giving a spoiler, are you the type of director who's going to do whatever for that perfect shot?
So the one thing that I have had to learn, and it's a really hard thing to learn, is that because I am an assistant director, which means that I have absolutely no say in the final edit, is that you have to find that balance in your work where you're like, you have to understand that there is a possibility that this thing that you are busting your ass for will not make the final cut. And that can mess with you a little bit if you don't put yourself in the right space. So you just have to find the right place between like, I'm just doing everything as best I can, I'm doing it right, but like at the end of the day, got to take care of yourself, got to take care of your crew, all that sort of stuff. So to me, like One Perfect Shot, that whole thing, like the endless pursuit, not a thing I'm going to have personally. However, like I think that movie just does such a great job of explaining that idea of like the way that we tirelessly try to find things in a certain way, and to know we have that thing, and a lot of that stuff happens by accident. And that's the other hard thing, is that some of the best things that happen in film happen by accident. And we try to create those accidents, and sometimes you just can't. And, you just got to be observant and vigilant and all of that sort of stuff. I always think about very random tidbit, but a great like 80 thing that happened was like the season finale of The Walking Dead 2, The Walking Dead season 2 finale. There's Herschel's farm, the barn is burning. They literally have the barn aflame, and the AD said to the director, "Hey, that barn is going to collapse very soon." And they were like, "You know what? We're shooting the other way. Screw it. We're shooting that way so that we can get the barn collapsing." And that's how you get something awesome like this very important closing shot of a season, is just realizing like the elements you have, what's going to make the most sense at the time. And sometimes you get lucky and you get something great like that. And sometimes you just, you find it in the edit. Sometimes you just don't get it and make it the next one. Like,
I already see notes like that where something random will happen and it'll get in the shot, and then the director's like, you know what? That looks good. Fuck it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Right?
We're going in that direction.
Well, yeah. Well.
Hey, well, thank you again for sitting down with us and
Totally.
bringing a little bit more context to this conversation. I think it was very much needed. I'm Still excited. I'm still excited. I'm not gonna say I'm on the hate train 100% with MCU, but we can't hold them accountable. We can't hold them accountable. And Darius, don't think I didn't see the hooligan on the hat and on the wrist. Shout out hooligan, another COD alumni out here. But before we get out of here, what do you have going on, or what can we I guess look forward to from you personally, Brassil? I know you had mentioned some shows you were working on earlier, but what should we look out for?
Well, things are, right now it's kind of in a little bit of a mellow period. So, all the new Walmart commercials I worked on. I don't know.
Shout out.
But no, I worked on
Christmas is
I worked on
coming up.
worked on the last season of The Shy for the last few
Hey,
episodes.
all right.
Oh, nice.
And it's a great crew over there. I never worked with them before. I love that cast. And paths may cross again on that one.
Shout out Jake. Hopefully he wins that video game tournament.
Oh gosh. And then there's some stuff percolating for maybe the fall, but I'm just gonna be jumping around. I mean the big thing is watch Paper Girls. I would really love to see it be a second season. Love to go back to it.
That's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon. All 8 episodes are there. Nothing in an antidote to Stranger Things.
We gotta have an episode where we talk about Amazon Prime though. Like they've been snapping with TV shows.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah, man. I mean, that's really the big thing right now is Paper Girls coming out. So I'll definitely drop a line if there's something else that comes down the pipeline. But it's been a good summer, just kind of jumping around and not being fully committed to anything, which is a great thing you can do in this industry. But yeah.
Hey, Lord of the Rings came out today, didn't it?
What?
Did
Today?
it?
What's that?
I think so. It's the second, right? Yeah.
No. That's September 2nd. Don't get me all excited like there was a surprise drop.
Oh,
You don't
what
want-
to say?
No,
Was that a movie, a TV show?
No, yeah, series, right?
Yeah,
Series,
Rings of
yeah.
Power. Rings
Okay,
of
okay.
Power. Yeah.
All
Rings
right.
of Power, right? Yeah.
very excited for that. I will
So
definitely
September
be,
2nd.
yeah,
September
we'll definitely be giving House of the Dragon a shot. Definitely be watching Andor.
Oh yeah. HBO Max just released all the episodes in 4K now, so that's gonna be interesting to watch. I was gonna do a rewatch of Game of Thrones because I
There you
haven't
go.
really watched it all the way through.
Yeah. I would love to rewatch like the Battle of Winterfell in 4K and not
Hey,
in the dark.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say
Hold
that
the
was
door.
that one
They
battle.
shot it
was
way
dark as
too
hell,
dark.
like
Yeah. That was a heck of a weekend. We got that and Endgame in the same weekend. That was
oh yeah, that was.
we didn't know how good we had it.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, Amazon has been snapping, man. You guys ever seen Carnival Row?
No.
Not yet.
No,
Give
but
that
I stand the boys for sure.
Oh yeah. I
Love
want
the
that.
boys.
The Boys, Invincible.
Invincible's
I mean,
great.
they had the Tom Clancy movie that Michael B. Jordan did. That wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Terminal List. What was the one with John Krasinski?
Oh, Jack Ryan.
Yeah, Jack Ryan. That's not bad. Like they got a little
For sure.
little run.
Yeah.
I'm like fantasy. I'm like Wheel of Time, Shadow and Bone. I'm like
sure.
Carnival Row.
Yeah. My 2 recommendations, because I want to say I listened to last week's episode and I listened to you guys say there was nothing on television, and I was gonna go full Brian Cox adaptation. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Right.
Because I gotta say the two big ones, which I feel like have kind of fallen through the cracks, or maybe you've heard about them, maybe you haven't. If you haven't watched The Bear yet,
Okay.
Started first episode.
The Bear is great. It's about just a quick brief thing. It's basically about like James Beard nominee chef who takes over his brother's like Italian beef place in Chicago. They shot it in February this past year. It was kind of like one of those things where like everyone's like, hey, there's this show, The Bear, whatever. And then just it's so freaking good. It may be my favorite thing that came out this year. And then on this is from a little bit earlier in the year, but on Apple TV Plus, there's Slow Horses, which is a British spy show with Gary Oldman in it. That is like about like all the people who get kicked out of MI6, who have to operate out of this crappy, doing grunt work office situation. Really well done, really good. It's a lot of fun. It is like executive produced by the same people who do Justified, or did Justified rather, and then
great series.
Yeah, Will Smith, no relation, I believe, is the creator or writer, and it's just really good. It's really well done. So speaking of Justified is just it's about a month left of filming here in Chicago. There'll be a limited series of that coming out next year, I think, at some point, which is exciting. And yeah, there's a lot going on. So yeah.
And now I'm hungry, man.
Hey, you heard it here first, man. Don't say there's nothing else to watch on TV.
There's
a lot
too
of
much to
things
watch
out
on
there.
TV.
Exactly. So stay tapped in, and we'll next episode of course be kind of going back and forth on what we've seen and what we think.
It's
and
a
things
lot of
like
wild
that.
shit going on.
But thank you again, man, for sitting down with us for
Totally.
episode 79.
Absolutely.
Great discussion. So
Totally.
once again, this is Matt Brassil. We'll have some links in the bio for you to kind of check out what he's got going on social media, as well as the blog, to stay tapped in there, and we'll list out all the recommendations. So it'll be a little easier for you to remember. But that is episode 79. This was episode 79 of the COD. Thank you, man.
Yep.
What song should we play at the end of this episode? Let me ask you.
Oh crap!
If there's any recommendations?
No. Oh no. I can't think of anything but like "Hit Like a Girl" by Mimi at the Altar right now. Just
all right.
My money
little emo for you.
All right. I'm not mad at it. Hey, shout out, man. Episode 79.
79.
Thank you.
79.